Dr. Ilara Voss had never imagined herself aboard a pirate ship, much less being the one to guide it through the uncharted and mysterious corners of space. A xenobiologist by trade, Ilara had spent most of her life studying alien life forms and ecosystems, mapping out strange new species in peaceful research missions. That was until her vessel, the Allegory, was intercepted and taken by the notorious pirate ship, Marauder, during one of her routine expeditions. Years had passed since then, and though she was still technically a captive of the pirate crew, her mind still yearned for discovery. Her heart still carried the passion for science. She was a reluctant part of the crew now, one whose value had shifted from prisoner to useful asset for the Marauder. Under the captain, Orion, a ruthless leader with little interest in science, Ilara found herself performing duties she would never have imagined. Yet, her true mission remained one she kept secret from everyone on board the mission that would, perhaps, change everything for humanity. The Marauder had found its way to the Forbidden Nexus, a vast, uncharted region of space that few dared to approach. It was an area of mysterious anomalies, space-time distortions, and strange, unpredictable phenomena. The galaxy's most advanced exploration ships had avoided it for centuries. It was a place no one entered unless they were forced or foolish enough to ignore the countless warnings. However, legends told of something extraordinary, hidden deep within the Nexus, something that could change the course of all life in the galaxy, something powerful. Ilara's interest was piqued as soon as the Marauder's sensors had scanned the outer edges of the Nexus. A signal. A distress signal, encrypted and centuries old. Her expertise had allowed her to decipher parts of the message, but only enough to realize its importance. The signal originated from deep within the Nexus, too deep for most ships to have ventured. It was old. It had to be. The origin of the distress call was something she had not anticipated, an artifact, a very specific, ancient alien object. The artifact was called the Genetrix, an object of legend. Rumor had it that whoever controlled the Genetrix could alter biology itself, rewriting the very building blocks of life. Imagine a power so vast it could enhance the genetics of any species, even create entirely new forms of life. To Ilara, it was not just a scientific marvel, it was the missing link she had been searching for in her work. The ultimate discovery of her career. If she could study the Genetrix, she could unlock secrets about evolution and life itself. Maybe even find the answers to humanity's biggest questions. But there was more at play than simple discovery. The Marauder's crew didn't know the true significance of the artifact. As a scientist, Ilara kept her knowledge of the Genetrix secret. Her goal wasn't just to study it, but to prevent the Marauder from exploiting it. She couldn't let them unleash something that could rewrite the very fabric of life, especially when she had a feeling the artifact had a much darker purpose. As powerful as it was, there were too many unknowns, and the wrong hands could use it for chaos and destruction. Still, Ilara found herself in a precarious position. She had no allies aboard the Marauder. The pirates were a rough, hardened crew, motivated by greed and under the thumb of Orion's tight control. Ilara's knowledge kept her alive, but it also kept her in check. She had to be careful who she trusted. She wasn't sure if Orion himself knew the true potential of the artifact, but his obsession with riches and power made it clear that if he ever understood what the Genetrix could do, nothing would stop him from taking control. And then, the unexpected happened. As the ship moved deeper into the Nexus, Ilara's ship sensors picked up something strange, an encrypted transmission that had been lurking hidden beneath the more obvious data streams. At first, she thought it was just a glitch. But the more she analyzed it, the clearer it became it wasn't just a distress signal. It was a message, a warning. The message was carefully coded in a way that only someone with her expertise could decipher. What she uncovered sent chills down her spine. An alliance. The pirates, including her own Marauder crew, were being manipulated by a much older power. The distress signal wasn't just about the artifact, it was about an alien race, one with motives far beyond simple conquest or exploration. This race had been working with the pirates for years, pushing them towards the Nexus with a hidden agenda. It seemed that the pirates weren't seeking treasure or glory for themselves. They were pawns in a much larger game, one that was being orchestrated by the enigmatic aliens. The message revealed part of the plan. The Genetrix wasn't just a tool for enhancing life. It was part of a larger, galactic-scale effort, and it had the potential to reshape humanity's entire existence. These aliens knew of humanity's ancient origins, of a time long before recorded history, and now they were leading the pirates to activate the Genetrix. But the real question was why as Alara sat alone in the ship's control room, processing the hidden truth. She understood that her mission had changed. The Genetrix was no longer just a scientific discovery. It was a ticking time bomb. If the pirates unlocked it, they wouldn't just alter biology. They could rewrite humanity's very place in the galaxy, pushing humanity to the forefront of an ancient power struggle. Alara's next move would determine everything. She had to stop them. And somehow, she had to stop the pirates from ever reaching the Genetrix before humanity paid the price. The Marauder had drifted deeper into the Forbidden Nexus than any pirate crew had dared before. The region was unpredictable, a vast stretch of space filled with gravitational anomalies, ion storms, and dead zones where communication was impossible. Yet the crew, under Captain Orion's command, had discovered something truly extraordinary. It started with a signal, faint at first, but growing stronger the closer they got to a barren, uninhabited planet deep in the Nexus. As the ship landed, the crew began to dig into the planet's surface, searching for anything valuable. Alara, unwillingly pulled into the excavation efforts, was soon struck by something she hadn't anticipated. There were ruins buried beneath the dust. Ancient structures, worn by time and harsh elements, and yet unmistakably designed with advanced technology. The pirates were excited, eager to plunder whatever treasures they could find, but Alara felt a creeping unease. As she examined the remnants of the ruins, she began to notice patterns. The architecture, the symbols on the walls, it was all too familiar. It wasn't alien. It was human. Shocked, Alara pulled back from the excavation site, her mind racing. She hadn't said anything yet, but the revelation was staggering. The ruins were clearly of human origin. This was impossible. Human civilization, as she knew it, had not ventured this far into the galaxy. No record suggested such a thing. She began digging through the ruins more carefully, her mind racing with the implications. As she uncovered more artifacts, it became clear this was an ancient human civilization, one that had disappeared long before humanity had ever left their home planet. The thought alone sent chills down her spine. How could this be? Humanity's history was not supposed to be this way. According to every historical record, humanity had only begun to spread through the stars a few centuries ago. And yet, here were the remnants of a forgotten human race, their technology far beyond anything the current era could produce. What had happened to them? Why had they vanished? Alara had always believed that humanity's rise to power in the galaxy was a gradual process. But now, she realized that the truth might be something far darker. The galaxy wasn't just home to scattered remnants of humanity. It seemed there was something much bigger at play. And this discovery was just the beginning. News of the discovery quickly spread throughout the Marauder's crew, and as expected, it led to intense conflict. Some pirates saw only wealth in the ancient city's remnants: gold, technology, and weaponry that could make them rich beyond imagination. Others, including Alara, understood the gravity of the situation and pushed for caution. There was no telling what this long-forgotten civilization had discovered or unleashed before they vanished, and there was no way of knowing if their fate was tied to the very power the pirates sought to control the Genetrix. Captain Orion, who had always kept a tight grip on his crew, seemed divided over the discovery. At first, he was eager to explore the ruins, promising the crew unimaginable rewards. But as tensions rose and some of the more ambitious pirates began to openly clash over how to proceed, Orion found himself in a difficult position. Half the crew wanted to strip the planet of its resources immediately, while the other half, led by Alara, pushed for a more careful approach, hoping to understand the full implications before moving forward. Among the pirates, alliances began to shift. Some began to side with other factions that had secretly been working with the alien race, the ones who had been guiding the pirates' actions all along. These factions were far more dangerous than any of them realized, with motives that went beyond simple power grabs. They were interested in far more than the genetrics, it seemed. The ancient human ruins held even greater secrets, ones that could help them control not just the genetrics, but the very fate of the galaxy itself. Alara's position grew more complicated with each passing day. She had always been a captive, but her knowledge was now valued more than ever. Yet, despite her value to the crew, she was constantly torn between her loyalty to the pirates who had once saved her life and the growing realization that their actions might lead to something catastrophic. She had come to know some of them personally. Some of them had even shared a kind of camaraderie with her. She knew how far some of them would go for a few credits, how quickly they'd abandon their moral compass for a shot at power. But now, Alara was afraid. Afraid of what the pirates might unleash, and afraid of the truth behind these ancient human ruins. Could it be possible that humanity's own history had been deliberately erased from the galaxy's records? Could there have been a time when human civilization was far more advanced than the galaxy realized and had paid the price for it? As Alara pieced together the artifacts she'd found, her suspicions grew stronger. A cryptic message carved into one of the walls of the ruins seemed to confirm her fears. It spoke of a great power, one that had been sealed away to protect the galaxy from a dangerous force. But as she read further, her heart sank. The message wasn't just a warning about the power. It was a warning about humanity itself. The civilizations of the galaxy had once known the truth. Humanity's ancestors were not innocent. They had once ruled over vast stretches of space, manipulating species and ecosystems for their own benefit. But in their greed, they had created something terrible, a weapon, perhaps, or a power too great for any species to control. The message implied that humanity's legacy had been deliberately erased from the galaxy's history, not because of some natural disaster, but because the galaxy's leaders had feared what humanity might become if it ever regained its ancient power. Alara was stunned. The truth was far more horrifying than she had ever imagined. The pirates, it seemed, had been manipulated from the start, just like the ancient human race had once been manipulated by the very same alien forces now guiding the pirates. But why? What did these aliens truly want? And why had they led the Marauder crew to this planet in the first place? The message was clear now. Humanity had once been a threat to the galaxy, and the genetrics was the key to bringing that power back. If the pirates activated it, they could not only awaken humanity's forgotten history, but unleash something that could destroy everything. Alara realized she had to act quickly. Her growing dread was replaced by a sense of urgency. If she didn't stop the crew from exploiting the ruins, they would unknowingly bring about the end of everything. But the pirates weren't going to let her stand in their way. The political tension aboard the Marauder was rising fast, and Alara knew she had very little time to make her move. The Marauder had always been a ship of secrets, but Alara never imagined the truth would unravel like this. The once bustling crew now moved like shadows, their motives shifting in ways that made Alara's skin crawl. Each day, the tension mounted, and the ruins on the planet below were no longer just an archaeological site, they were a ticking time bomb. Alara had spent days researching everything she could find within the ruins, piecing together fragments of forgotten history. But she never expected the holo record she discovered to change everything. Hidden deep in a vault beneath the surface of the ancient city, she unearthed a device, an ancient recording from the lost human civilization, and within it, a truth too devastating to fully comprehend. It was a message from the past. The holo record began with a calm voice, speaking in a language Alara had never heard. But as the image flickered and came into focus, she saw something familiar: human faces. Human hands working with technology that far surpassed anything the current age could achieve. It was a snapshot of humanity in its prime, an era long before the galaxy even knew of human existence. The recording played on. It revealed a shocking truth. Humanity was not the primitive species it believed itself to be. No, humanity had once been the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. They were the original creators of the genetrics, the very artifact the pirates now sought to exploit. The genetrics had been their creation, but something had gone horribly wrong. The human civilization had grown too powerful, its technological and biological advancements far too great for the galaxy to control. A faction of other species, fearful of humanity's unchecked rise, had staged a coup. In a brutal conflict, the leaders of this galactic alliance erased all records of humanity's existence, scattering its descendants to the furthest corners of space and ensuring that their influence would never rise again. Alara's mind spun as she processed the truth. Humanity was not a new species, struggling to find its place in the galaxy. It had once been the galaxy's dominant force. They were the architects of the very power that now threatened to tear everything apart. The Genetrix, the key to controlling life, had once been a symbol of human brilliance, but now it was a relic of a fallen empire, a legacy of destruction and domination. But the holo-record didn't just stop there. It showed the true nature of the Genetrix. Its power came at a price. The technology was designed to grant immortality to those who controlled it. However, this immortality wasn't a gift, it was a curse. The Genetrix would drain away the essence of a person's humanity, turning them into nothing more than a conduit for the alien intelligence that had once manipulated humanity. They would live forever, but they would no longer be human. Their minds would be consumed by the alien power, and their identities would be erased, leaving only a shell behind. Alara's heart pounded in her chest as the implications of the recording set in. The pirates, led by Orion, were not seeking riches or power, they were seeking immortality. And the alien race that had been manipulating them, the ones guiding them to the Genetrix, had promised Orion eternal life in exchange for his loyalty. But there was a dark truth hidden within that promise. Orion would not remain the man he was. If he activated the Genetrix, he would cease to be human. He would become an empty vessel, a puppet controlled by the alien force that had once enslaved humanity. Alara felt the weight of the discovery settle in her chest. She had been deceived. The pirates, the crew she had once felt some sense of camaraderie with, were nothing more than pawns in a game much larger than she could have ever imagined. And Orion, the man who had once seemed like her greatest enemy, was now a tragic figure, a man so desperate for power that he was willing to sacrifice his very soul. In a darkened corner of the Marauder, Alara finally confronted Orion. The captain stood in front of the viewports, staring out at the swirling chaos of the Nexus. His face was hard, the lines of his expression carved deep with the weight of years spent chasing a dream of power. But when he turned to face her, there was a coldness in his eyes that sent a chill down her spine. "You've discovered the truth, haven't you?" Orion said, his voice low and measured. There was no hint of surprise in his tone. He had known she would uncover it eventually. Alara's voice trembled, but she stood her ground. "You made a deal with them. You're willing to trade your soul for immortality." Orion's lips curled into a smile, but it was a bitter one. "I don't need your pity, Alara. I've spent my life fighting for power, for control. I've seen the way the galaxy treats those who are weak, but I found the way out. The Genetrix will make me eternal. I will shape the galaxy as I see fit. I'll have the power to rewrite the balance, to create a future where humanity doesn't cower in the shadows." "But at what cost?" Alara demanded, her voice rising. "You'll lose everything that makes you human. You'll become a puppet, just like the rest of them. Is immortality worth that price? You won't even be yourself anymore." Orion's expression hardened. "You don't understand, Alara. You've never known what it's like to truly have power, to be free of limitations. The Genetrix will set us free. We'll reclaim what's ours." "No!" Alara whispered, her voice filled with an undeniable sorrow. "You're wrong. The Genetrix will destroy everything." Alara had always believed that humanity had the potential for greatness. But now, she was faced with the devastating realization that humanity's true legacy was one of destruction and domination. The question that burned in her mind was whether humanity could overcome this dark past, or whether it would fall victim to the same mistakes it had made so many eons ago. The stakes were higher than ever before. If Alara didn't stop Orion, the Genetrix would awaken a power that could consume not just him, but the galaxy itself. But how could she stop him? How could she destroy the very thing that promised to give him everything he had ever wanted? The lines between right and wrong blurred before her eyes. She was no longer just fighting for survival. She was fighting for the soul of humanity itself. And as the Marauder prepared to journey further into the heart of the Nexus, Alara realized that the fate of the galaxy rested in her hands. The tension aboard the Marauder reached a boiling point as the final confrontation loomed. Alara's mind raced as she watched Orion prepare to activate the Genetrix, his cold determination evident in every movement. He believed that the power of the artifact would make him invincible, but he had no idea of the true cost. Alara had only just begun to understand. Asa Orion's hand hovered over the activation console. Alara made a choice. She couldn't let him complete his plan, but stopping him would require more than just outsmarting him or stopping him physically. She knew that to prevent the Genetrix from falling into Orion's hands, she would have to sacrifice everything, herself included. With no time to waste, Alara rushed to the central control of the Marauder, overriding security protocols and activating the ship's own systems to connect directly to the Genetrix. She felt a moment of hesitation, but it was fleeting. In her heart, she knew this was the only way. Her body shook with fear, but her resolve held steady. If she didn't act now, everything would be lost. The moment her fingers made contact with the controls, the Genetrix hummed to life. A deep, resonant vibration surged through the ship, and Alara's vision blurred. She was no longer just a scientist or a prisoner. She was the one who would make the choice. As the artifact's power coursed through her, she felt an overwhelming presence invade her mind. It was as though the very fabric of her consciousness was being torn apart. Then, a voice, a chorus, really spoke. "We were like you once," it said. "We sought the same power, and now we are nothing." The vision unfolded before her like a tapestry of ancient memories. She saw them, the humans of long ago, proud and mighty. They had once wielded the Genetrix, believing they could control it. But their hubris had doomed them. The power of the artifact consumed them, stripping them of everything they had been. Their bodies had endured, but their minds were twisted, lost to the very force they had sought to control. The vision twisted and darkened, showing her the faces of countless beings who had given up everything for power, for immortality. Their faces were hollow, their eyes empty of emotion or thought. They were no longer human. They had become vessels for something far older, far more dangerous. The ancient humans, now twisted by the very power they had once harnessed, reached out to Alara, pleading with her. "Do not make the same mistake," they warned. "The Genetrix is not salvation. It is a curse. To wield it is to lose yourself. Save yourself. Save them." Alara's heart broke at their words. She understood now. The Genetrix wasn't a key to unlocking life. It was a weapon designed to erase the very essence of what made life worth living. The power to create was also the power to destroy. With all the strength she could muster, Alara fought against the overwhelming pull of the Genetrix. She didn't want to become like them, like the twisted remnants of humanity that had come before. With a final surge of will, she disabled the artifact's core mechanism, halting its process. The ship shuddered as the Genetrix powered down, its energy dissipating. But the victory came at a heavy cost. As Alara disconnected herself from the artifact, she felt her own body and mind beginning to change. The power that had surged through her had altered something fundamental inside her. Her skin tingled as if her very cells were being rewritten. Her thoughts felt clearer, more focused, but also distant, as if she were no longer completely tethered to her human self. She could sense the vastness of the universe, the endless stretches of space and time that dwarfed everything she had once known. She collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, her body trembling. She could still feel herself, still feel human, but there was something more. The sensation of being more than human lingered like a whisper in the back of her mind. The vision of the ancient humans had left a mark on her, an understanding of something greater, something beyond even the stars. As Alara lay there, trying to steady her breath, she realized what she had done. She had stopped Orion. She had stopped the Genetrix from unlocking its full potential. But in doing so, she had awakened something else within herself, something beyond her understanding. She was no longer simply human, but she wasn't completely something else either. Orion stood over her, his face a mask of anger and confusion. He had wanted power, immortality, But now, standing before her, he could see that something had changed in her. The fire in her eyes was gone, replaced with something far more distant, far more knowing. "You've done it," Orion muttered, his voice breaking. "But you've ruined everything." Alara met his gaze, her thoughts distant but steady. "No, Orion. I've saved everything." "You just couldn't see it." The ship fell silent as the realization of what had happened spread across the crew. Orion, in his desperation for power, had lost everything: his humanity, his dreams, his legacy. And Alara, despite the deep cost to herself, had gained something else: a deeper understanding of what it truly meant to be alive. But as the Marauder drifted through the Nexus, Alara couldn't help but wonder, had she truly saved the galaxy? The Genitrix was still out there, its secrets still hidden in the deepest reaches of space. And humanity's forgotten past, its vast and terrifying potential, was something that could never be ignored. The galaxy might never be the same, and neither would Alara. As she gazed out at the stars from the viewports of the Marauder, she asked herself one final question: should humanity rise again, reclaiming its rightful place in the universe, or should it remain hidden, its legacy buried forever? The stars blinked back at her, cold and distant, as if the universe itself was waiting for an answer. But for Alara, the question would remain unanswered for now, and perhaps for eternity. The true meaning of humanity, of life itself, was forever uncertain.